Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to this week's episode of In Therapy, where we follow real-life people on their therapeutic journeys. And this week we're exploring motivation and change. Often to do the hard work of therapy, we have to be able to commit, to be disciplined, to do things that don't always feel comfortable, that don't always feel easy to follow through and to do. And that's what we're going to be exploring this week. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, click the bell icon to be notified as new episodes are released, and do follow my Instagram at Alex Howard Therapy for daily inspiration and support. Al came to In Therapy to work on a range of issues, predominantly health anxiety, tinnitus, and the effects of childhood bullying, which have resulted in a general feeling of negativity towards life. This is a pivotal point in Al's journey. In recent sessions, he has admitted he has struggled to commit to the process. I'm keen to see whether he has found the motivation needed to change. Al, good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm up and down. So it's been another hard couple of weeks for many reasons. The situation I was talking about before definitely sort of fully broke down and ended.
Was there any more kind of development after I last saw you?
Not really. No, there was some messaging back and forth, but nothing that kind of led to a different conclusion.
Was it ended in a slightly softer way?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay, but yeah, it was. I've grappled with it from the point of view of feeling just very sad and very. I mean, it's like they say, like at the end of even though it wasn't like a long relationship or even a full-blown relationship, but the end of that kind of thing can feel like a death, and that's how it sort of felt, because her whole kind of energy and demeanor towards me kind of completely changed and became quite cold, and she said as much. She said, I'm sorry that the feelings they've gone because of what happened, and I don't have the same energy towards you anymore. And whereas from my side, really all that had happened is that I'd gotten very upset, but I hadn't sort of come to a conclusion in my heart about it that I was clear one way or the other. So that was quite tough to face, and just to sort of accept that.
Yeah,
took a little while.
Were you able to actually feel the sadness?
Yeah, I think so. Because I spent a good couple of days feeling it, and I was on my own for quite a lot of that time as well. So it felt like I was feeling it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, how do you know if you were feeling it or not?
Historically, in those situations, would you have been able to feel it? Was it different to how it would normally be, or is that
not really? I mean, I'm often, when these things that haven't lasted very long end, I'm often relieved rather than sad.
Yes.
So it just shows that this was something a bit more significant than I'd had for a while.
Yeah, you're a bit more emotionally invested in it.
Yeah, for sure. She just brought a lot of like warmth and kind of warmth into my life, and sort of companionship, and that I hadn't really experienced for a long time. And so that suddenly being gone, even though, from a logical perspective, from a thinking perspective, it was probably clear it was not going to work out for many reasons. It was still painful.
Still hurts.
Yeah, and I certainly felt that. So yeah.
And there were tears?
I know, not exactly. Weirdly, I sort of felt teary. The most teary was when I saw her the last time before I sort of had this meltdown and stormed off. Because I probably knew that that was probably the last time I'd see her.
Mm.
And I remember feeling that just standing at the bar waiting to buy us some drinks. And I remember, my eyes started to tear up. But no, it was more when I was, since then, it's been more like depression, I'd say. Like sort of just, what was it? Sunday, I spent all day just finding it hard to move, just like watching just Netflix, and didn't shower until late afternoon. And
what's the internal meaning making of it? Like when you reflect on it and in that state of feeling depressed about it, like what's the story that you're telling yourself about what happened and what it means and your role in that? And
yeah, I mean, a lot of self-flagellation, like it's that tautology. It's flagellation, implied. Yeah, just flagellation. Then, just a lot of beating myself up, and which I'd probably mentioned last time, I think. And yeah, like, oh, you've messed up another thing that could have been the rest of your life, could have been your partner, could have had the chance to have kids. Like she was very vocal that she wanted kids, and now you're alone again, and it may be another 10 years before you find anything comparable. It's just all those sort of real, like, felt like desolate, wasteland kind of thing. Even though, I mean, that's on a pure feeling level, because I've got a date tomorrow night. I've got another date next week. So it's not like I am suddenly alone again, but it's
the kind of energy of that internal inner critic voice. Does that feel like your mom or your dad, or like, does it have any kind of resonance to any of those kind of people in your life historically?
No, it hasn't. I've never attached any other voice except my own to that.
How about the kind of energy of the voice, like that kind of critical tone?
Not really, because like my dad's always been he's never put any pressure on me to do anything really. My mother obviously did put pressure on me for various things, but I suppose she wasn't around long enough in my life for it to have ever got to the point where she was worried I wouldn't like meet someone and have a family.
But I think I'll make a distinction between the content of what it's saying and the kind of quality of how it's happening. So when you were a child, obviously your mum wasn't beating you up for messing up a relationship and someone you're going to have kids with, but that sort of hypercritical and judgmental and it's your fault. It's more that I'm speaking to.
Yeah. I don't know. Doesn't really, it doesn't necessarily ring true for me.
Okay.
Like maybe more, I think it probably speaks more to the being bullied.
Yes.
I'd say. Because those are the kinds of, because my mother wasn't mean, that's the sort of, those things that I've been saying to myself, like if you said those to anyone else, you'd be a bully.
Totally.
So it's I think it feels much more like that's where it comes from.
And it's probably, without going down a big rabbit hole here, that inner critic structure tends to be set up in the first 7 years of life, but the content then gets shaped throughout our life. And so although it's more likely relationship with mum, dad, the world, primary caregivers when you're younger, it sounds like some of the style of that inner critic is what's been shaped through that bullying time and that kind of, the cruelty element in a sense. Because what you're describing is, like that image of you on Sunday sort of, watching Netflix, not kind of sharing until later in the day, is actually, I look at that image and feel an empathy and a compassion that like that's a really horrible place to be. But what you're doing is then being cruel towards yourself about that, which then only compounds the sort of stuckness in a sense.
Yeah. No, it's a bleak place to be. Yeah. And then amongst all of that, I seem to have developed some kind of infection, either urethritis or some kind of so which makes peeing excruciatingly painful, and I can't get to the bottom of it because I can't get an appointment with anyone, and so every time I go to the loo, I'm in agony.
It's been going on for how long?
Like a week and a half, but it's got much worse the last couple of days. I've finally got an appointment on Thursday to go and see somebody. So yeah.
And how has your health anxiety been with that?
Not great. I've been catastrophizing it a bit, because I spoke to a doctor on the phone and he was like, well, it doesn't sound like a UTI, like cystitis or something like that. He was like, so I think you should probably be seen, to rule out anything sinister. I was like, oh, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by, so that started the whole.
And what did he say in response to that?
I didn't ask him.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what was going on in my head.
Was going, yeah.
So yeah. So I'm like, it's all full on. And I've been working every day as well. So, but I don't have work after tomorrow, between tomorrow and Christmas. So I'm going to attempt to have some days where I don't work. Certainly Thursday, where I go for this appointment.
And it sounds like also some days to try and unravel the different pieces you're talking about, like where you're going to live and whether you sell your flat, and if you're going to rent somewhere, like what area and how do you find the tenant. Like there's just all that stuff, like life admin stuff takes time. It's having the time to be focused on it in a way that addresses it.
Yeah.
How have you been getting on with the reset program, you're going to do modules 3 and 4, and the meditation practice? Like, how's that all been going?
Yeah, a mixed bag. So I got through to the end of the 4th module. Meditation wise, that's dropped off a bit. I did some days. Again, it's the sort of moving around a lot, and that's made it hard for me to.
If you were to say, because I think it's 2 weeks since I last saw you. If you
just under,
yeah, that's we saw you on a Thursday last time. That's right. So if you say, how many of those 12 days, how many times do you think you've been able to meditate?
Oh gosh,
I mean roughly
4 or 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say 4 or 5.
Okay. And when you have, how has that been?
It's been okay. I mean, it hasn't been earth shattering or anything. But yeah, it's been. I enjoy it. It's just I find it hard to make the time for it. And I've been, I continually sort of struggle with sleep, and so it's I tried to fit it in before, like after having breakfast, before starting or going to work. It's just that window isn't always there. So yeah, that's why I've found it a challenge.
Okay. What did you discover in module 3? So around the self-awareness of the different patterns, like what came to you through that?
I mean, I've got probably all of them, I'd say. So the mental tennis, the catastrophizing, what were some of the others?
So there were the 5 personality patterns. So there was the anxiety, helper, achiever, perfectionist, controller.
Yeah. I mean, I could see myself in all of them, really. I wouldn't say I'm all of them, but like,
yes,
I would say that
elements, all of them.
Yeah, and say at different times I grapple with all of them.
Which would you say are the most predominant?
Probably, I mean, at the moment, I'd say the anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, the achiever a bit as well, because I have that. I remember you saying something about how one of those characteristics is like not being able to not beat yourself up about taking some downtime, or I'm not very good at that. So it's like if I have a day like Sunday where I did nothing, I can't 100% sort of enjoy it. It's like, well, I wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway, because that was a sort of different thing, because I was feeling very depressed. But there have been other days where I haven't been feeling depressed, but like I just want to not do anything and watch TV a lot of the day. And then often I end up sort of beating myself up about that, and and I look at sort of I look at my work sometimes, and I'm like, that's good, but it could be sexier, could be better paid. Is this it? So I have quite high expectations of myself, I think.
There's also, it sounds like there's an element of a controller pattern as well, like, particularly around the sleep environment and needing things to be set. Like, so that sounds like it's also quite that anxiety and that controller pattern together. Yeah. Like, if you don't have control, then the anxiety goes up. And then in some ways, the more the anxiety goes up, the more you feel you need to control what's happening in the environment.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I am quite controlling of my own environment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was the mental tennis, there was the snowball thinking, there was the mind blending, like those other patterns.
The snowball thinking is catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's taking something relatively small and it's like a snowball down the mountain. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh yeah, I do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the mental tennis, it sounds like as well. Like, do I do this? If I do this, this will happen. So and they're kind of going back and forth that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that mental tennis contributes to the sleep problems a lot.
Yes. As you're trying to sleep, or you mean during the day in terms of
as I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Because that's when the tennis match really kicks off. It's like, it's a classic sort of story that the body's stopped, so the brain is like, right, let's get to grips with this shit and keep you awake because of it. And it's just like if I go to bed with like some kind of unresolved anything in my head, that's what happens. And often I'll have to turn on the light and get my phone out and try to figure out whatever the thing is. And
well, in a sense, what you're trying to do is you're trying to think your way to a feeling of safety. It's like, if I can think about if I do this or that and that happens, if I can organize it all in my head, then I can relax and feel calm, as opposed to making an element of peace with the disharmony and the sort of stuff that's going on. Like, there's a sense that, again, it sort of goes back to the controller pattern. If I don't feel in control of all this stuff, then your system's in a stress response to that.
Yeah.
Is it somewhat enlightening to be able to name and recognize the different patterns that are happening?
Yeah, it is. It is somewhat. Yeah. I do struggle with labels in general.
Struggle in what way?
I suppose or terminology to remember it. So giving a name to these things is like, obviously, if you you ask me about my problems, you can hear me describing a lot of these things. It's just me remembering the terminology is I'm not great at. But it's helpful, to notice the patterns for sure.
Yeah.
And then obviously that plays in with what you go through in module 4 in terms of stopping them.
Right.
Which at first, I got to confess, I found my knee-jerk reaction was like, this isn't going to work. I think
that's not an uncommon.
Yeah, I think I might have found my where this process is going to end for me. But actually, I persevered, and by the end of it, I started to feel, and I started to actually use it when I was feeling anxious, or when I was trying to sort of work out stuff with this girl in my head. I was like, is there no scenario here in which I could salvage this, make it work, and and like, maybe if I sent her a voice note saying this and this and this, or sent this message, and I just kept going round and round and round and round and round. It just was never ending kind of loop. And I kind of used it to cut that off, which was good.
Yeah.
Good. And I tried to use it also for the sort of anxiety around this, whatever I have at the moment, this infection or whatever, although with less degree of success. But that's obviously because it's a new tool in my kit.
Yeah. Did it make sense the way that I explained it in the module around this idea of neuroplasticity and how effectively what you've done is you've you've got a bunch of patterns that have been running for years and you've wired and trained your brain to be a certain way. And in a sense, at this point in our work together, I feel like I've got, and hopefully you feel like I've got, a relatively good understanding of some of the history and some of the things that are happening and some of the ways that you're experiencing things. And we have to be careful that we don't just go down a path of lots of knowledge and insight without that turning into some kind of actual change of what's happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like the things that are, the kind of three things particularly that are really critical right now is firstly the meditation, because what that does is that conditions and trains your system to be calmer. And inevitably what's going to happen, if you're up here and you meditate and it calms down, you'll stop and it will gradually then start to go back up to the level it was at before.
Yeah.
So then the second thing is, what are the thought patterns, the habits, the behaviors that move you from a slightly calmer place back up into the anxious place? If you can see it, you don't have to be it. If we can have more awareness of those thought patterns, then that comes to the third point, which is using the stop process as one of a number of tools we can use, but using the stop process to start to break some of those patterns of thinking and effectively train your system back into a calmer state and a calmer way of being. And if we don't do those practical pieces, as I say, we're in danger of like more knowledge and more insight and more understanding, but not much actually changing.
Yeah.
Because it's not the awareness alone, given the level of conditioning that's been here, the awareness alone won't change it. It might make it feel a bit easier and it might feel a bit more insightful into what's happening, but it's the change in habits that ultimately is going to change what's going on.
Yeah.
Where do you feel in terms of if we were rating it from 0 to 10, 10 being like super motivated, like I'm absolutely going to be able to make this happen. I don't mean make it happen in terms of the change. I mean make it happen in terms of applying the tools and techniques. 0 being I have no motivation, no commitment, it's never going to happen. Where are you at the moment on that?
I'd say 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what I'm hearing you say is, when you do the meditation, you basically like it and you feel a bit calmer. It's not like some radical, spiritual, high experience, but something feels a bit calmer. With the stop process, you had some success of managing to stop some thoughts that were becoming frustrating. So we know the tools have the potential to help.
Yeah.
We also know that there are some strong patterns that have got a lot of history behind them that are not going to change overnight. They're going to need some consistency and some follow through to change them. We also know that you're somebody that can commit to hard things and do them. Knowing all of that, if we can bring that together and get you to use consistently tools that we know help on things that we know are causing you some quite serious frustration and difficulty, it seems entirely plausible that we would see some progress and some change.
Yeah.
Does that logic follow for you? Like when I say that, is that basically like that makes sense, or is there a significant part that's like no to some part of that?
Not no, but like the jury's out, maybe.
So where is the jury out? On which piece of that logic?
Not on any of the logic. It's just, I suppose this is a form of snowball thinking of like the results at the end. It's like, like the sort of the difficulty in believing that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think it's a possibility. Like it's just there's an element of cynicism and.
How much would things need to change for it to be worth the effort? Because I'm not sat here saying that the outcome is that you never have any anxiety no. Like it's proportions, and I'm interested in a sense of how far it would need to get for you to go, that's something I can believe in that's worth committing to.
I don't know really, because I don't have a measurable as such for that. I mean, it's just more I would like to have in general just have fewer frustrations and be more like find somewhere I want to be happy living and, you know, maybe have a relationship, you know, those kinds of things.
Maybe have some kids.
Maybe, but I'm not hankering after kids. You know, I'm not like, oh, I love kids. I think because I've seen my brothers go through it, I'm like, yeah, if kids happen, okay, maybe.
There's nothing like having a good collection of nieces and nephews to understand the reality of parenting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think, that's a sort of secondary or tertiary thing for me.
But what you're describing doesn't sound that big a ask to me.
Yeah, I guess.
Does what you're describing feel achievable?
It's difficult because I feel like I have to have a sort of, suspension of disbelief, you know, to embrace it, because my life has been this one way for so long that it's like to really believe that it could be different is hard. You know, it's like,
sure.
So,
and as you might remember from module 1, I talk about a continuum from hoping to believing to knowing. And it's not reasonable to expect to sit here, you know, for anyone to sit here and go, right, I know I can change this, because you haven't got enough evidence yet that you can. And it's like, if the belief you can change it's the top of the table, the evidence is the evidence. Sorry, the legs is the evidence that shows you that you can change it. And right now we have a bit of a flimsy leg that says, well, I've done some meditation. It wasn't like transformational, but I did feel a bit calm and it was okay. And I had this thing that was bothering me and I used the stop process and it did seem to make a bit of a difference. So that belief that I can change this has got a few flimsy legs, but it's like, it's not building, solid. Yeah. But so the question is, to move from the hoping to believing that you can change this, we need to get some more legs on that table. We need to get some more evidence that it's possible.
Yeah.
But the only way we get the evidence is by spending more time deploying the tactics and the tools that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we need to get enough momentum behind that. And if it's like you do it if you feel like it, or you do it if you're up on time, we're just not going to get the momentum that we need.
Yeah.
Do you still feel a 7 out of 10? Or do you feel, having talked about it a bit more, there's a bit more certainty?
Yeah, I mean, it helps to put structure on it. Yeah. But yeah, I still feel a bit hesitant, just because I need to see if I will do these things.
Yeah. I mean, look,
being honest, you know.
Here's what I would say.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, you're at a bit of a crossroads moment, right? I mean, we all have crossroads in our life many times, but you have a crossroads moment about you've been suffering. You've been suffering with elements of depression. You've been suffering obviously with a health anxiety. You've been suffering with a kind of lack of sense of real passion in terms of life and wanting to be in a relationship. And you have in front of you a set of tools which there is some early evidence might be helpful. Might not be all of the answer, might not be helpful. But at least there's some early evidence that it is helpful. I can't give you motivation. I can help you understand what's in the way of motivation, what would find ways to kind of get momentum going. But that fundamental, I'm going to do this, has to come from you. You have that because you've done it in other areas in your life. You've done it in hard areas in your life. You know, you said to yourself, right, I'm going to start a diary, and you've done it for over 2,000 days. You've had, I'm sure, many moments in your kind of work life where you've been without work. You've had to go and find something. You've done plenty of hard things. Yeah. So, there are times I sit with people and they just don't really have much of to put it blunt, a backbone to do hard stuff. And that's where we need to start. I'm not going to patronize you. You have the ability to do things. Yeah. It's your choice ultimately if you make the decision to commit to doing this. I think you can, I think you want to, and I think there is going to be some resistance, but it's also those sort of points in life where we go, this is now important enough that I'm going to make this a priority and I'm going to find a way to make it happen. When I put it like that, how does that land for you?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Yeah, I need to. I mean, the end of the day, it's only myself is going to not profit from not doing it. So yeah, I am motivated to do it.
Yeah,
I just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear. I'm not trying to be overly hard on you, because I think it's not like you could be sat here saying I didn't do anything that we talked about.
Yeah.
And then it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But you have done stuff,
Yeah.
and it just needs a little bit more energy.
Yeah. I suppose in my mind, it's like, I mean, this is the case with a lot of things that I have in the back of my head I want to be doing, is like, I'm waiting till I find this place, this magical place where it probably doesn't exist. But
well, I think it can exist, but the problem is you're waiting for a place outside of you.
Yeah.
And my feeling is, if you change the place inside of you, you're more likely to land in that place outside of you. Because what you want is an external place where you live in an environment where you've got some human contact, but you also have your space, that you don't have any disturbances, that you can get sleep.
Yeah.
And all of that is what you really want, is to be able to feel calmer in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the controller pattern of, if I get all of these things lined up, then I'll be able to feel calmer in myself.
Yeah.
And what we're saying here really is that the calmer in yourself doesn't need to be dependent upon all of those things. Those things are nice, and they're still things that ultimately you aspire to and you want to have.
Yeah.
But we need your internal state not to be so dependent upon that.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Any questions you've got today?
No.
Okay, good. Actually, one final question. Do you have awareness of what you need to be stopping? I mean, that's going to come more from doing the thought diary and the reflecting on those thought patterns, but do you have enough of a sense on what that looks like?
I think so. I mean, to be honest, it's most of the ways I think. I mean, honestly,
I think it's particularly the catastrophizing.
Yeah.
It's particularly the health anxiety and the kind of mental tenants. I think that they're particularly the areas of focus.
Yeah. But yes, I think I do, because there have been, since watching the 4th module, there have been several moments where I've thought, right, this is, what I need to cut off. Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right, Al, good to see you. I will see you in January.
Yep. Thanks very much.
Great, you're welcome.
I hope you found this week's episode of In Therapy helpful. Change is a difficult business, and we can come to therapeutic work because we're in pain and we're suffering and we want things to be different. But it's not just having the motivation to get started which is important. It's also having the motivation to follow through. And there really is a truth that we have to have the right tools and the right pathway forward at the right time. And when we started the process of filming In Therapy, it was really important to Oliver and I that we would tell the real story of what happens in therapeutic work. And what happened next in our story was that he had an opportunity to move abroad, which he decided to do, but that also coincided with the decision to stop the process of In Therapy. And we were sad to hear that, because I always want to believe that if people commit and follow through the process, we can support them in many ways to do so. But I also really respect people's decisions and people's recognition of what they need for themselves at different points along the journey. And if you've been following our story, you'll be aware that he's been struggling with location and where he lives, and particularly some of his sensory sensitivities. And so this felt like for him the right decision. And of course, we're very grateful for Al's participation and sharing of his story up until this point. I really invite you to reflect from this week's episode, your own motivation, your own focus in terms of your change, and what helps that and what hinders that. I'd love to hear from your experience in the comments below. Please do comment, we'd love to hear. Next week on In Therapy, we're going to be catching up with David. So I look forward to you joining us next week.